Okay, and that covers about everything, so I can go ahead and get started here. To start off with, I'm going to be choosing new map of my data. I'm going to be going to my training folder, and I have an airports Excel sheet, which I'm going to open up and show you before I actually import. So give me 1 second. Okay. So this is a list of airports in the United States from a few years ago. We have a latitude and longitude for each of these airports. We have a name of the airport. Let me actually expand these columns so you can see them all. Name of the airport, city that it's in, county it's in, state it's in, etc. Going all the way through that, we also have the amount of flights that have been through this airport. We have foreign, domestic, and then total flights. And then also there's regions and other things about the airport. So this is the sheet I'm going to import. In the first step, we're going to match up any geographic fields with their respective matching geography. So I want to just make sure that my latitude and longitude here are matched up to X and Y, which they are. I can hit next. I'm going to be locating the records by coordinates, importing, and I don't have my workspace settings set up correctly. Give me 1 second. There we go. You most likely will not run into that. That was because it's something I was doing earlier. Okay, and then won't be doing any themes or analysis through the Create a Map wizard. We'll be doing a lot of selection sets once we actually open the map though. Okay, so there are all my airports. And you can see that if I open the data view for this airports layer, we have all the attributes that were from my spreadsheet. So we have the name of the airport, we have things like the state that it's in, city it's in, as well as all those flight values. And we're going to actually be using these to make some selections. But before we do that, if your selection toolbar is not already open, you can open it in the selection menu. So click on selection and make sure toolbar is checked. If it's not, just click on it. And you should see a toolbar much like this one pop up on your screen. So selecting points can be done by clicking on the select by pointing button and then clicking on the points you want to select. You'll see this is going to highlight the points in red. It's going to add them to the selection set. So selection, and then in parentheses, the number of points that are in that set. And in the display manager, it's going to add them to the sets portion under the airports layer here. So we have airports, then sets, and then we have our selection. We can open the data view for the selection by right-clicking and choosing new data view. And you'll see those 3 points that I selected. You can change the style for the set by clicking on the red dot next to selection. So this is similar to changing the style for a layer. You basically just choose what you want the set to look like. Change the color if you want to. I'll leave it on red for now. And it's going to update all the points in that set. If you want to add more points, click on select by pointing and just continue clicking points. I'm going to make those a bit larger so we can see them better here. You can also select points by doing a rectangle selection, a circle selection. You can make a freehand shape, and then we'll be going over conditional selections and some of this stuff later. So let's try a rectangle selection. Click and drag to create a rectangle. And when you release, it's going to select all the points in that rectangle. Circle selection is similar. Click and drag, it'll make a circle. Alternatively, you can click where you want the center to be, and you can enter a number of miles to select within. That wasn't large enough. There we go. Freehand shape works similar to drawing a freehand shape using the drawing tools. Click once to start drawing. Click again to add a corner. Click again to add another corner. And then when you're ready to close your shape, just double click and it'll highlight and select all the points within that shape. To clear your selection, click on Clear Selection. So let's highlight a few of these New England points again. And with those highlighted, if I wanted to make a new selection set, I could click on Create New Selection on the selection toolbar. And give it a name. So let's call this one, let's just call it second set. The selection set that you have chosen from this dropdown on the selection toolbar is going to control what set you're currently adding points to. So you can see that while I had the red selection set chosen, it is adding points to the selection set. And if I have this green second set chosen, it's going to add points to this green set. Now, points can be in more than one set. So you'll see if I highlight those, they're actually in both. And it'll try to mix the symbols as best it can. So it has the flag from the selection set and it has the green styling from the second set. If you want to zoom to a particular selection set, you can click on Zoom to Selection, and it'll zoom you in to show just that set. If you want to hide all the points except the set you currently have selected from this dropdown, you can choose Show One Set or All Features, and it'll hide everything except for that set. So see if I zoom out now, we'll only see those points in New York and Connecticut. If you click it again, it's going to go back to showing all of them. You can export selections that you've chosen by opening a data view. So if I wanted to export these, 8 points that I have highlighted, I can go to File, choose Export, and then Table to export the data view. Okay, so let's clear our selections. The next thing I'm going to show is running totals. So if you want to track a number as you're selecting these points. So for example, let's say I wanted to track the total number of flights that I have selected. I can click on Options, and then I can choose Show Running Total field, and I'll also be choosing Show Set Navigation fields, or Navigation Tools, sorry. From this None dropdown, this is the field that I want to track. So let's do let's do domestic flights. And then as I select points here, we should see that domestic value go up. So this is the total number of domestic flights that I have selected based on which airports I've picked. You can use the set navigation tools to navigate between points. So I can go next record, toggle between individual records. And I can go first and last by clicking beginning and end. And you can go to the previous one by clicking previous. Okay, so let's clear that set. Let's go ahead and remove my second set here. The next thing I'm going to cover, I'm going to remove the set navigation tools as well, just by unchecking that in the running total field. And I'm going to dock my selection toolbar back here at the top of my screen. And I'm going to zoom back to the whole US. Okay, so we're basically starting fresh again. Next thing I'm going to go over is performing a select by condition. So you can find select by condition either on the selection toolbar here, or you can find it in the selection menu under select by condition. There are a number of other selection tools here. We're going to go over a few of these during this webinar. We're not going to cover all of them though. So if you do have questions on any of them, do feel free to ask because I can go over those if people have questions. But let's try select by condition. So with the select by condition, you can use a particular field from the data that you've imported to select points based on. So if I click on the field list dropdown, these are all the fields that are in that were in my Excel sheet that I imported. So we see all these flight values that I can use. We see those city, state, country, county, all that stuff. So let's say, for example, that I only want to select airports that have over 10 million flights. I click on flights, type a greater than symbol, and then type 10 million, and then OK. And it's going to add all of those points with 10 million flights or more to my selection set. Now, if I want to rename this set, I can right click on selection and choose rename. And I can call it like 10 million flights plus. And it'll rename that selection set. May have to just zoom out of my map to make it update. Yep, there we go. You'll see that there's always a selection set called selection. So even if I rename that original selection set, it's going to add a new selection set and just name it selection. Now, what if, for example, I want to find all the points that not only have 10,000, or let's do, we'll highlight all of the airports that are in Texas, for example. So to do this, I can make state the working layer, click on select by pointing, and then click on Texas. So right now you're seeing that selection sets work on every type of layer. So I've just selected the state of Texas by making state the working layer, clicking on select by pointing, and then clicking on Texas to select it. Whenever we're doing selection sets, your selection is always going to be made on the working layer. You can set your working layer by right-clicking on the particular layer and choosing make working layer, or you could choose it from the drop-down on the top left. So if I want to select for my airports again, make airports the working layer, and then you'll see my selection tools are now working on the airports layer. So let's say, for example, I want to select all the points that are in Texas. With my airports as the working layer, I can go to the selection menu and choose select by location. I'm going to select based on features in the state layer, and my selection set is going to be selection. So this is going to select all of the points that fall into the selection of the state layer. And in my case, the selection of the state layer is Texas, because I selected Texas. I'm going to select airport features that are inside that selection, so inside of Texas. And I'm going to place selected features in, let's call this Texas airports, and we'll create the set. Yep. So we'll see that this particular selection set is blue, so I probably want to change that color to make it easier to see. Make that purple. Nice. So here we see that I have my 10 million flights airports in red and their flags, and my Texas airports are in purple. Now, what if I want to make a selection set that is only the Texas airports that are 10 million flights or more? I could actually use a combine selection to do this. So from the selection toolbar, I could choose combine selection. We're going to create set 10 mil plus Texas. And we're going to do that by choosing features in both the 10 million flights plus and the Texas airports. So this is going to pick features that are in only both of these. So they have to be a part of both the 10 million flights and the Texas airport selection sets. And it's going to put them in this 10 million plus Texas set. And there we go. So those points are yellow, and we can see those here. If I set this drop down to 10 million plus Texas, and I click on show one set or all features, it's going to show only those 2 points. Next, I'm going to remove my state selection set. So to do that, we're going to make state the working layer, and we're just going to clear selection. Go back to airports here and choose show one set or all features to show all our airports again. So the last thing I'm going to cover is creating selection sets from a theme. And you can do this from using the select by theme option in the selection menu. Prior to doing so, I'm going to remove all my current selection sets. So to do that, you can click on selection settings, highlight all your sets, and just choose drop set. There's other options here, such as changing the style, labels, renaming the selection sets. All those are available here. You can also do that like I've been doing through the display manager. It's really just preference. So I'm going to close that and we're back to where we started here. So one thing I may want to do is do a select by theme. So what we can do is, let's say I'm interested in creating a gradient color theme based on the number of domestic flights for each of these airports. You can go to selection menu and choose, I can click on color theme. So color theme map wizard here. From the field drop down, choose domestic, click OK. It's going to color those points differently based on how many domestic flights have been through those airports. And it adds a color theme. So you can see the individual colors here representing how many flights have been through these airports. If you've used color themes before, this is probably pretty familiar. You can also customize things like the colors by double clicking here. Now, what if you wanted to convert this theme to selection sets? Maybe because you want to remove some sets, or you want to have, you want to be able to export individual sets, like individual bits of, or individual colors. You can go to the selection menu and choose select by theme. Choose the theme that you want to turn into selection sets, click OK, and it's going to convert your theme into selection sets. Now, what if I'm only focusing on my largest airports and I want to add labels for those large airports? I can find the largest set here that I want to have labels on, click on the labels icon next to it, and I can change what I want to label it with. So let's do like just the name of the airport, make it a bit larger, and we will add a halo in the background. So it's going to add labels for just that set. And again, if we want to show just that set and not all the points on the map, we can choose that set from this dropdown and then click show one set or all features. And it's going to hide everything except for Atlanta and O'Hare. And again, if you want to show all the points, just click on the same button again.